All right, everyone, we start off today with the Trump indictment saga, of course, continuing at least until Tuesday. Trump expects to be arrested then. Now, they're not actually going to lead him off in handcuffs. We're not talking about a violent crime, and we are talking about a former president of the United States. I like it when the leftoids are soiling themselves with glee, thinking about he's going to be booked and fingerprinted just like everyone else. Ha ha, Orange Man has been cut down to size. That's not what's happening here. First and foremost, we still don't know if that's actually going to happen at all. We don't know that there's actually going to be an indictment. I think the signs point to that plausibility, but we're not sure that the original report wasn't being hyperbolic or was even based on a reliable source at all. It's basically people familiar with the matter say law enforcement is scrambling to think of ways to deal with the situation as they expect Trump to be indicted now. They could be doing it preemptively, knowing that there's going to be a judgment that day, and they assume that he might be indicted. That's plausible as well. They just heard the bants. They were told by the Manhattan DA a week ago, hey, get ready, because, we've got to make a decision that day, so get your boys in blue out there. But we don't know what the decision is. Law enforcement may not know either. Secondly, again, there's no real source. None of the law enforcement agencies would even return the calls by the legacy media. So we don't even have like a leaker or anything like that. We have the proposed leak of a forthcoming indictment. No clue who it's from, no clue whether it's reliable. So that's the first layer of analysis here. We still don't know that. As for Trump expecting to be arrested, that doesn't necessarily mean, hey, he got a call from the Manhattan DA, are you going to try to flee justice? Or are you going to come and stand your ground and put on a legal defense? Again, that's possible, but we don't know. This could be Trump simply reacting to scuttlebutt preemptively to try to drum up support to dissuade an indictment. That's entirely possible, saying, oh, well, everyone, they're trying to overrun the country, and so you should go and peacefully protest, which is what he insinuates. By the way, mysterious how he did get back on Facebook and YouTube at exactly the same time as all the scuttlebutt going on. Now let's say he is indicted, and he goes, and this is presumptive, he goes and puts on his defense, assuming that the people down there actually allow the New Yorkers to extradite him in the first place. Again, there's always the possibility, because he's between such a cock and a hard place, that DeSantis tries to take action. It is possible. It's not likely, but we'll see what happens. I do expect that Tuesday will be a big news day. I will probably stay up late that day and make sure my phone is charged, because of course if the baby's asleep, I can't record in the house. I will literally go out to the shed, with my dimly lit shed, with my phone, and keep up to date on what's going on to the best of my ability that day, if something major happens before I literally pass out at some point. We're entering uncharted waters, though. If Trump is indicted, it will break over 2 centuries of precedent. There are a lot of Republicans, not a majority, but a lot of them, as well as some independents who I think would be rankled enough so that they are willing to protest now. Preemptive warning to people. If anyone tells you to enter a federal building or throw a rock or things start getting dicey, do not participate. It probably glows in the dark. January 6th comes to mind. That's not the only instance that does. Do not do anything of the sort. Hauling off and beginning street battles because of an indictment that doesn't necessarily even lead to a guilty plea or anything like that, and with completely unknown and uncharted effects, is not a reason to attempt to start a civil war. I think most people are calm enough not to do that. But what you can do, some people are suggesting, Posobiec doing this, withdrawing money from the banks to cause bank runs. Yeah, you can do that if you want. There's no law against withdrawing your money from the banks, and they are teetering close to the brink at the moment, so any further perturbation could really wreck the economy, although I would point out that they would just blame that on Trump. Well, Trump's fans decided to wreck the economy. See how terrible and horrible they are. See what extremist, vile people they are. They wanted to collapse the banks. Think of the CEOs. That'd be what they're really thinking of. But they'll be like, oh, all the people that have lost their money, even though all of the depositors, I guess, here into perpetuity due to the bank nationalization of Bidenomics, they don't have to worry. The average American wouldn't suffer any pain. Of course, at some point you have fewer and fewer banks able to gobble up the defunct ones, which might become a problem, but we'll get past that for the moment. So yeah, you can withdraw your money from the banks. You can take all your sick leave at the same time. People can organize and refuse to go to work. Most of you have some sick days saved up. You have some paid or unpaid vacation days saved up. In certain unionized industries, you can just go on strike at a moment's notice anyway, and it doesn't even fucking matter. You could shut down, therefore, a significant amount of transportation and production in the country. Again, paired with any further bank runs, that brings us pretty close to a recession condition. While Biden would be responsible, and while Alvin Bragg, I guess, would be partially responsible, and the Uniparty in general, again, they will attempt to blame Trump. I'm sure they already have pre-written articles for those two eventualities. You can also stand on the corner and picket. You can go protest, but it has to be peaceful. If it's not, you have already seen what will happen. You will be called a terrorist and an extremist and a lost causer and all of these things. And evil Trump is obviously the one that caused the violence because he said for people to go protest. Well, he did that literally before. With J6, all Trump did is go peacefully march, and he still gets blamed for insurrection. By the way, this is a dovetailing of Trump derangement syndrome and kangaroo courtism anyway. This is their way of trying to get him on literally anything because they know that they can't get him for encouraging insurrection or fomenting treason or something because he clearly didn't. No court of law in the world would be able to scrabble together a legal case against him that would result in that charge. We're talking about business falsification. This is pertinent to a payment through Michael Cohen, again supposedly to Stormy Daniels, that was marked as legal fees, because it was a payment to a lawyer. The allegation effectively boils down to, no, it wasn't. He was having Michael Cohen give that money to Stormy as a payoff, and so it was misfiled, and that's a felony, and that's illegal, and big problem. I've already pointed out why they can't hold Trump in a jail cell, because under our legal system, the Secret Service has to go with him whithersoever he goes. That would be a little bit difficult. You're going to put Donald Trump in a penitentiary, okay, without violating his a right against harsh punishment, excessive punishment, even though you're going to have to hold him in a separate part of the prison from literally everyone else due to his status as former president, and the Secret Service agents will have to sleep in the cells adjacent to him, where they will technically be in conflict, of course, with the people running the prison. It's not going to work. In the end, if he gets indicted, again, we're not 100% sure that will happen, but Trump apparently expects that, or is pretending to expect that for political reasons. That's another possibility. It would be straight out of the Trump playbook. Assuming they indict him, it goes to trial, and assuming that he actually, the trial doesn't fall flat because it's really kind of baseless and frivolous anyway and stupid, and he gets found guilty, which, I mean, it's possible that happens. There might be one objector in the jury that says, what the fuck are you even doing right now? I'm not touching this issue with a 10-foot pole, so I vote not guilty. I don't care enough to, hazard the republic just to get evil orange man into a jail cell, which again would be hyperbolic. It's really funny. That's an interesting positing that the leftoids are spewing right now. Assuming that happens, again, we move towards entirely uncharted waters in the country. There is no precedent for it. The kind of behavior we're seeing from Alvin Bragg and from the Uniparty is more indicative of the kind of behavior that typically happens in a dysfunctional state. In a functional state, typically speaking, former chief executives who have had access to all sorts of classified shit are guarded, and they are not criminally prosecuted unless there's some real compelling reason. They shot someone, like Dick Cheney did. So they murdered someone, they raped someone, they did something that's particularly heinous, or literally fomented a coup or insurrection. Since they can't get him on that, they are trying to go after him for a single instance of alleged business fraud involving a payment of a total that Trump makes in less than a day. What's the point? It's just pure Trump derangement syndrome. And the other analysis, of course, I do agree with Musk and Scott Adams and many others and basically everyone, including some liberals who are really goddamn scared right now. The intelligent liberals right now are afraid. They realize that this would totally reinvigorate Trump. And the fact is that he can run from a jail cell, which he will not be in anyway. An indictment is not a formal finding of guilt at all. It's just saying a trial will commence. Meanwhile, Trump will be very, very obviously taken off the campaign trail, and it will fit in perfectly with his core fan base's belief that he is being unduly oppressed because the system just fucking hates him. People with TDS are never going to support him anyway, so their opinion doesn't change, their opinion doesn't matter. They can meme it up in the meantime. Really what you're doing is you're bringing us back to the energy of 2016. Over the last 24 hours, it has felt much more like the poo-poo-pee-pee Pepe era than the doldrums of the last few years. Things are politically exciting again. You don't have to worry about super viruses in order to get your dopamine hits right now. Sort of what Trump wants, I think. Talk about reinvigorating a campaign that they were trying to ignore. They're not acting out of strength. And the final thing I would say, arguably the most important, probably should have said this in the first fucking sentence. Now is not the time to be black-pilled. Now is the time to be slightly more joyous, because they don't rock the boat this hard and throw out several centuries of precedents and risk the kind of mass protests, shutdown, economic damage that this could end up doing if they weren't afraid. If you don't have fear of a person, you don't worry enough to rock the boat until you almost upend it. That's exactly what they will be doing if they indict Donald Trump, and of course, there will be plenty of coverage of it, I'm sure. That's about all. Peace out.